Good afternoon to everybody in the United States. Good evening to our friends in Israel. My name is Jeremy Benamy, and I'm the president of J Street. We have come together for this webinar and community meeting in the wake of this simply horrific terror attack from the prior weekend. I want to begin our gathering today by reiterating J Street's ongoing grief and our ongoing sorrow over this terror attack, which happened now 6 days ago, and about the violence that has followed. And I'll say at the beginning, for clarity, J Street's utter and complete condemnation of this crime, a crime against humanity, and our deep support as a J Street community for the people and the state of Israel. So many in our community as J Street have been impacted. We know personally friends, family, colleagues who have died, are injured, who are missing, and we fear are being held by terrorists in Gaza. We're still heavily, for many of us, in processing and grieving mode, but we are also an organization that is part of the conversation about what needs to be happening next, how the United States should shape its policy towards this in the near term in particular. We've been in very close contact with the Biden administration, as well as with members of Congress and with their offices. We have pretty much the same priorities as the administration. Number one, to ensure that Israel has what it needs to ensure the defense of the country and its people. Number two, that every effort should be made diplomatically to prevent the conflict from escalating further to a full-blown multi-front regional war. The situation in the north remains very unstable. The West Bank could explode, as could East Jerusalem, Jerusalem itself, in the coming hours and days. Third, we want to ensure that every effort is being put into ensuring the safety of Americans and others being held hostage, and Americans throughout the region, including making it possible for Americans to come home who are unable to get home from Israel and from inside Gaza. I'd add as well that the president has been clear, astonishingly and wonderfully clear, about America's support for Israel and its right to defend itself, and its right to hold the terrorists and the criminals to account who carried out this brutal attack. But he's also been clear that democracies with values must adhere to international law when it comes to the rules of war and the protection of civilians. So we have urged the administration to ensure that the humanitarian needs of the people of Gaza are a priority as well, for food, water, and fuel for the millions of Palestinians that are now trapped thanks to the wrongful actions of their own leaders and of Hamas. These are going to be rough days ahead. And I'll be coming back to some thoughts about next steps at the end of the meeting. But what we're hoping to do today as a community is to give space to the stories and the voices of Israelis and Israeli Americans who have been directly impacted by this horrific attack. Right now, on campuses and in other spaces all over the country, not to mention online, we are all encountering people who are denying the reality of what happened, who are minimizing it, or worse, are celebrating in some twisted way that this was some step toward Palestinian liberation. So we feel it is vital for us as a J Street community on a human level to understand the stories of those who lived through this trauma and for whom it will be a national trauma for years ahead, and to be there for those who have suffered. It's important for us to know as a movement that we know these stories, that it is important for us to know these stories so that we have the tools to push back against those who are seeking to spread misinformation and disinformation around these events. So with that in mind as the goal of the first half hour of this call, I want to introduce Omar Rosenthal. Omar is a volunteer in the international media relations of the Kaplan protests, and nowadays is coordinating international coverage of the massacre. Omar, over to you.
Thank you, Jeremy. I would start by say how much I appreciate all of you here. I know that for all of the people here with me in this Zoom and all the people listening, it's been a really, really rough week and almost week, and I'm thankfully unharmed. I was at my home. I heard everything. There were alarms everywhere, and I knew something was happening. But as the days are going by and by, we learn that it was so much worse. I go every day and I learn so many horrific stuff. Murder of women, children, babies, elders, rape, mutilation. It's not enough anymore. It's not enough to describe what happened. And the people right now who are taking out the bodies and are continuing to fight and continue to save us, they're the real to protect us, they're the real heroes here. But I'm doing my part. I'm using the power that the Kaplan protests have helped me get. I contact so many international journalists, and I said the world must know. Actually, last month I was in Washington D.C. I was in the Holocaust Museum in Washington D.C. And for everyone who was there, the first thing you see when you go up the elevators is a story of General Eisenhower. I think it was when he came to Buchenwald, concentration camp. He decided that he wants to show Germans, American soldiers, and everybody who would listen, and everybody who could film and everything, he wanted to show them what happened. Because he said that in the future there will be people who will deny it and will say that it didn't happen or it happened for the right reasons. And it's important to do everything to prevent that. And here, although the stuff is, I would even say, as horrible, just in a shorter period of time, there are right now people who deny it, and that is horrifying to me. And I do recognize the right of, like all of you, we don't want to see the civilians in Gaza suffer. But as my surviving friends here survived the horrors will say, and I would really like to reiterate, Hamas must be eliminated after it. Anything other than the complete defeat for Hamas will be considered a victory. And the victory for Hamas here will be a green light for terrorist organizations everywhere, from Hamas to Hezbollah to Boko Haram to the Russian forces in Ukraine right now, to do the same things. They will understand that works, and that is so dangerous. That is so dangerous. That will, if Hamas wins this, the hope for the moderates in the Palestinian society, I believe, will be crushed, and the chances for peace will go farther ahead. And so that's why I'm saying that there must be a hard defeat for Hamas here. That's the only way we can go out of it, not in a great danger for all of us. And with that notion, I would like to introduce Noam Cohen and Gal Raz, and we will start the story of Noam Cohen. Noam, please.
Hi, Omar. Thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here to tell everyone my story and this horror movie that I've been through in the last week. First of all, I want to say that you said that Hamas must not win. They can't win. They are a terror organization, and we are a country with army and with real weapons. They just know how to kill babies. So with that being said, I'll tell my story. Although my story is just one of thousands of other stories, may be worse than my story. But what I've been through is that, first of all, I'm 19. I'm from the center of Israel in a town named Rishon LeZion. And I came to this party to do as a videographer. I'm a filmmaker. This is what I'm living from. I chose not to recruit to the army. I didn't want to be part of it. Yes, and I just got back from an 8-month travel in South America. I've been in a lot of countries there, and I came back a week before the party. One of my reasons that I came back is to shoot this party too, because it's one of the biggest trans festival that were in Israel in the last years. So I came to the party with two of my friends that were helping me to do the videography and sound and all of that. And we came to the party at like 3 or 4 a.m. And we started we waited for the sun to rise to start shoot and start do all those technical things. We enjoyed the party for those 2 hours, and then we started to see rockets in the sky, a lot of white trails of rockets, but we didn't got so excited or so taking it seriously, because we have the David Dome, we have the Kippat Barzel, I don't know how to say it in
Iron
English.
Dome.
The Iron Dome, and it's launched the rocket while in mid-air, so we were thought that we was safe, and then they stopped the music, said the party is over, and everyone just go home. And because I didn't came to the party, I came to film the party. So I said, okay, now I don't have anything to do here. Let's just go home. I got into my car with two of my friends, and we started to go out from the party. The way from out of the party, there is one road that lead. Everything is open area of fields, and there is one road that you can go through. We went through this road. After 5 or 10 minutes of driving, we start to hit shootings. We didn't realize. After a few seconds, my friend is pointing at me. My friend pointed on people in the bushes, shooting on us. And as soon as he did it, all of my car was started to get shot at. One of my friend got hit from those shots in his leg through the car. I drive, so I just turned 180 and started to drive towards the party, because I knew that there is forces of police, and maybe they called backup. I don't know. I thought that there I'm gonna be safe, because I had armed people there. But then we see that on the other way we have terrorists too. So we were locked from both way on one-way road that you can't really drive on the sand on the fields. So then we saw a shelter, because it's in the south, and in the south they always throw rockets on us. So the government puts in near bus stations a shelter that you can get in a case of an emergency, like rockets that won't fail on you, even when they launch the rockets in midair, that the pieces of the rockets is falling on your head, and it's dangerous too. So they put a shelter, which is one way in, one way out. It's the same door, and it's 3 meters by 2 meters, something like this. And I see a lot of people getting inside there, and I see a armed police officer with his gun out, said everyone get in. We got inside this shelter, and as in the middle, when we started to get inside the shelter, we hear that they shooting on us. We literally can hear the whistling of the shootings on our heads, and some of the shootings hit the cars that were there and on the shelter itself. We got inside the shelter, and after a few minutes, we got hit on the shelter with RPG, like a shoulder rocket. I think it's called this way. And after the RPG, everyone was in panic. Most of the shelter collapsed on us, a lot of pieces from the shelter, and we hear a lot of shootings, like not just like one shooting, two shooting. We hear like a war zone, like of maybe, I think, I don't know, 5, 10, 20 people shooting on the shelter. Not all the people that were inside the shelter, not all the people that were near the shelter got inside, because there wasn't enough room. People were climbing on each other. My luck was that I got inside. I was one of the first to get inside, so I was inside the shelter, away from the entry. So everyone that was in the entry that couldn't fit in, they got shot and killed. And then when they saw that we don't get outside, they just throw a grenade inside the shelter. They throw a grenade, the kind of grenades that throw pieces all over. I don't know how it's called, but there is a lot of kinds of grenades. So they throw those kinds. They throw one, and in the first grenade, I see like huge explosion and all blood, all the walls. People were exploding in front of my face, and then they throw. And while they do it, people try to get out because they saw grenade, and they shoot whoever they try to get out. And they throw another grenade, and like 4 grenades, and they thought they killed everyone. I think we were like 30 people inside this shelter and outside of it, and I think only 5 or 6 were getting from it alive. I was alive just because what I did is to cover myself with dead bodies to survive. And even when after they throw all the grenades, they want to make sure everyone is dead. So they got inside the shelter and just shoot everyone. And a lot of bullets got inside my legs. Right now, I can't really walk. Both of my legs are with bullets and pieces from the grenades. One is in bad condition, all the muscle is ripped, and one is in a better. That's pretty much what happened. And then, like, after 40 minutes of they shooting us and do it, they got off there. And because it was, I don't know if you saw the videos, but it was people stuck on each other like in a huge pile, and I was in the bottom, so all the shots wasn't affect me. Although I think that I'll try to make it not too much scary, but it was like a horror movie. Like, you think people without body parts in the worst things. A lot of girls, a lot of my friends was died there. Then I just ran out of this shelter. I saw a car, get inside the car, and drove like into 100 meter. And as we get shot, we saw an entry to like a small town of Jews, like that are near to Gaza. It's called Kibbutz Sad, and then there they got me inside on Hanukkah. How do you say it? They got me inside. And they took care of me, gave me pills for pains and trauma, and they took care of me. I've been there. And even then, there inside of in Kibbutz Saad, the terrorists try to get in. They shoot RPG and throw grenades on the entry, but we had like armed people inside. It wasn't the army, but there was an armed people inside this place, and they was able to defend us.
No,
But
uh, we need to move on.
Okay,
Sorry,
so
but any last words?
yeah, that's pretty much my story. I can say that I heard Worsters by thousands times stories, but was my story and what I've been through.
Thank you, Noam. I would also say that Noam is doing a lot of work to record everything that happened, not just to him, but to a lot of other people. And his work has gone to many journalists, and he makes a lot of interviews, and it's so important. Gal, please.
Okay, thank you, Omar, and thank you all of you to joining this conversation. I guess Noam said a lot of the details for the background, so I'll try to make it shorter. As Noam said, when all the attack began, I didn't know it's a terrorist penetration to Israel. We thought it's just a rocket attack, so we said, okay, it's gonna be all right. We will manage to do it, and we will get home soon. And I also tried. I got to the party with two of my friends, and after the party stopped because of the rockets and the sirens, we got into our car back, and we thought we're going to drive back home safety, or not safety, just not with terrorists that trying to butcher us, and we saw the road, the one road that Noam told about was blocked by cars that got hit from terrorists that just tried to do a massacre, nothing else. And I have to emphasize that we were not soldiers or policemen. We're just citizens that came to celebrate love, freedom, and do fun, and just hang out and dance. And we're facing an organization who is not unhuman at all. I mean, my story is not so important. I try to get out. The road was blocked. I saw dozens of corpses on the road, inside the cars, laying down outside the cars. Eventually, I managed to get out from this festival area and to drive to another direction in this road that was not blocked. But a minute after we got on the road, we got into an ambush of terrorists with murder in their eyes that shoot on us, on our car. And we had a miracle. By luck, we were 5 in the car, and no one got hit beside just one guy that's been with us that got very minor injury. And we continued to drive, but after a minute or two, the car stopped because it got hit, and we got off the car and started to run by foot, and eventually we found ourselves hiding for almost 8 hours until just in the middle of the field. Like Noam said, it was open area. There was settlements there, but I've been told from my fiance and friends from home, don't go to the settlements because the terrorists are inside them, and they control some of them, and they butcher their people. So just stay in the open field, and that's what we did. We found a place to hide, and we waited there for 8 hours until we got rescued. But my story is not so important. I want to emphasize the brutality and unhumanity of Hamas and Islamic Jihad organizations. And I totally agree with Omar, which said that the Hamas organization must not continue to exist. I don't think that Gaza citizens are in charge of something, although although it might, I'm not sure, but I saw in a video that, by the way, took a very good friend of mine who is now kidnapped in the Hamas hands, and his girlfriend. It's a very famous video that they're taking her on a bike, and I don't want to think what they did to her, if they violated her in so many ways, and I'm not sure if my friend is still alive. My friend's name is Avinatan, and his girlfriend is Noah. This organization came into Israel to do a massacre and to kidnap as many people as they can, live or dead, and they don't have mercies. And I think that Israel now is in the hardest time of it. We are experiencing the hardest event of our country, and we need the support of anyone, any friend of Israel, including the US, of course, our biggest friends, to help us to defend ourselves and to help us to raise this organization and to I don't know, to bring the peace back to the Gaza Strip and its area, and not letting those, I can't even call them people, those animals, to come into Israel and to kidnap pregnant women, babies that are few years old. I heard they got baby who is 6 or 7 years old, and he is in Gaza Strip. And there are elder women and men, and there are babies and kids, and they butchered whole families and they kidnapped the rest. Me and Noam, we got a lot of luck that we are alive and we're speaking to you right now. I'm truly ask you, help us to deal with this situation. That's the only thing I want now. Thank you very much for your listening.
Well, Gal, I want to just on behalf of the whole J Street community, just to say to you and to Omar and to Noam, we represent a broad cross-section of America, both primarily Jewish, not exclusively Jewish. We are with you. We hear your stories. We want your stories to be heard. There are 500 plus people on this webinar now. We will make sure that the videos and testimonials are available to much broader audiences. We will ensure that people who are confronting those who are denying this or in some way misunderstanding it, that they know the truth. And that's the reason why we have asked you to join us. And I just cannot express deeply enough our pain. We share your pain. And our goal as an organization, you may not know our organization, but our goal as an organization is peace. And we do not want ever for something like this to happen again. And we must find a better path out of here. So thank you for sharing your stories. You're welcome to stay with us, but I would understand if you have other things to do. We have another half hour of our programming. And I just want to say again,
I can say one last thing. It's about that, first of all, it's not about Jews, it's about humanity, because they killed so other people that you can clearly see there are no Jews and they're not from here. They just killed everyone that wasn't without their symbol. We found a lot of ISIS flags inside, but it doesn't matter. It's about that. You said that that Palestinians, Gaza community are not, look, we had a war with them 10 years ago with the same organizations called Hamas, terrorist organization. And right now, we didn't kill those kids, and those kids that we didn't kill, and those mother that we didn't neutralize are becoming terrorists. And if right now we're gonna just deal with Hamas and leave Gaza as is, and the Palestinians as is, it's gonna become again, every time it's a different name, but it's the same thing. I'm just saying.
Yeah, we hear you, and we need to move on. I apologize deeply for cutting you off, but we do need to move on. So thank you again. And again, our sympathies are with you. And we want to turn now to Rabbi Susan Leider, who is a member of our rabbinic cabinet. She's actually now one of our co-chairs of our rabbinic and cantorial cabinet based in Sacramento, California. She's on the executive council of the Conservative Movement's Rabbinic Assembly. And I think, Susan, you may need to help us here with some reflections and some Torah and about how we approach this and how we approach Shabbat tomorrow and this 1 week mark since the attack began. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Jeremy, thank you. So I want to actually begin with silence for our hearts to receive these words of Omar, Noam, and Gal, to place them on our hearts, to open our hearts to receive these stories. And we'll come out of a moment of silence with a nigun, with a wordless melody. And I'll share some words of Torah. Yididai, dai, 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 dai. Yididai, dai, 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 dai. Yididai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. Yididai, dai, 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 dai. Yididai, dai, 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 dai. Yididai, dai, 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 dai. Yai, dai, 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 dai. I want to thank Joey Weissenberg for that melody, and Rabbi Chloe Zelka for sharing the following teaching with me that I now share. The Besht, the Baal Shem Tov, the great Hasidic spiritual guide, taught that there are 3 ways to mourn: through tears, through silence, and through singing a wordless melody known as a nigun. And what is it that all of these 3 things have in common? They're all beyond words. They're all beyond language. So we often say it ourselves, or we've heard it said, that there are no words. And we say this when we're so emotionally overwhelmed that language seems to fail us. Usually when we say there are no words, it's sort of an apology, like we wish we had the words, we wish we could wordsmith the right thing, because we want the comfort of language. Language makes the world legible to us. It's how we sort out reality. And with words come concepts and stories and narratives that put a neat bow on our unruly experiences and feelings and the events of life. But in the field of no words, something different happens. When we take a break and we open our hearts for others' words to sink in, as the words we've just heard, instead of filling the space, We learn from the book of Job that when Job's friends hear about all these terrible things that have just happened to Job, what do? They come to be with him in silence on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights. They saw just how great his suffering was. We sat together in silence to bear witness to the profound words of Omar, Noam, and Gal. And when we sit with ourselves in just a little bit of silence, we can meet these losses, these violent and tragic stories that we heard, with a clearer mind and an open heart, ready to receive words that will guide us into the future, words from J Street, words from other speakers of peace and hope for the future. That is what we're doing on this call today. We're showing up, we're listening, we're bearing witness. We're taking a moment of quiet to ready our hearts, minds, and bodies to respond, to help, to take action. So I want to conclude how I started. It's a little bit of quiet and a little bit of nigun, and I'm sure not just a little bit of tears. Yiridai, die, 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 die. Yiridai, die, 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 die. Yiridai, die, 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 die. Yay, die, 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 die.
Thank you so much, Rabbi. You've really created some space for us to process what we've just heard, and that transition from grief and anger to action, and to taking the steps toward a better future is precisely what J Street is all about. And I really appreciate your providing some words of Torah and wisdom to help us do that. I'd like to now ask for a couple of people who are going to speak, who are going to talk a bit about that transition to action, and begin with someone who's part of the J Street community and is on our board of directors, Ben Linder, who is also an Israeli American who was very active in the unacceptable movement here and in the efforts to protect and save Israeli democracy, and your energies were fully devoted to that. And then Saturday happened and the events since then happened, and we wanted to hear a little bit from your perspective as a very active Israeli American. How do you focus those energies now? Where do you take that desire to do something, from having tried to save Israel's democracy to now saving Israel's security and the future? Ben?
Thanks, Jeremy, and thanks to everyone who just spoke with such eloquence about such horrors. And I don't know where Noam and Gal find the words, but wherever they find the words, they are really touching, and I'm really honored to be speaking after them. My name is Ben Linder. I'm an Israeli American. I live in California. I have been active in J Street for many years, and in addition to being on the national board, I'm also part of the J Street Silicon Valley chapter, and still an honorary member of the New York chapter. And I come into this with an incredible amount of grief. Now, I sit here and I listen to the real grief and the real pain of Gal and Noam, and some of what I want to talk about is going to seem trivial in comparison, but I think that in order to be able to do justice to the ones who lost their lives and who the Israelis and the whole country that lost its sense of safety, it's really incumbent upon us to figure out how we transition from grief to action, and how we harness the emotions that we all feel, and the intensity of what we feel towards something good. And that's what I wanted to talk about. You know, as an Israeli American and a J Street member, I've led a very lonely existence for a while, just because, as you all know, our views are not extremely popular and have not been extremely popular in the Jewish community. They have also not been extremely popular in the Israeli community because so many Israelis have hardened their views over the last couple of decades. And what I found happened in a split second on Saturday morning is that all of the people around me, all of the Israelis around me, who Friday night were united in the pro-democracy struggle, who Friday night held a wide tent that accommodated a variety of political views, all the way from where I am to many of my colleagues in Unacceptable who are military veterans and feel much differently about a lot of things. But we all had a common purpose. And Saturday morning shattered that common purpose. And what I found happening to me was a shock of seeing this transition in my friends and the hardening of their hearts and the hardening of their attitudes and the words coming out of their mouths that I just could not believe. The desire for revenge, the desire for this squashing, this unspeakable cruelty to be repeated onto the other side. And it was a very hard week. And I'm thankful that I am part of the J Street community because my J Street friends helped me get through that. Shula and Gilly and Hannah, our local J Street staff, we communed and we did what is the best part of what we have here, which is this community. Because we've experienced, while not physical deaths, I think we've all experienced this grief because we see in front of us the death of moderation, the death of liberalism, the death of a lot of tolerance, and hopefully not the death of peace, but there is very much the loss of decades of progress towards tolerance, because Israel has undergone a transition that overnight has taken it to a place where we never imagined it would be. The destruction of a sense of safety. Where I've come to is I went through a lot of arguments. I had fights in the last few days that I regret, I've apologized for. But I do see the necessity to show the world this horror, and I do see the necessity of standing with Israel. And so the place I've come to is to decide that I will stand with anyone and any organization that is standing with Israel right now. A few weeks ago, we were in New York demonstrating on opposite street corners, the unacceptable demonstrators and the pro-Bibi demonstrators. And I'm willing to stand with them today because they stand with Israel. I think we all need to do that. And I want to see us all recognize that the protest movement has transformed into the social safety net, the safety net for all of Israel right now. Almost all work in civil society is happening by organizations that are either NIF grantees, J Street partners, or protest movement organizations. And I would just ask everyone to support these efforts. J Street sent out a beautiful email yesterday that detailed a bunch of really good efforts. And I think we all owe it to the people who suffered so much and will continue to suffer so much. So I'm proud to be a J Street member. I'm proud to be a J Street board member. I'm proud to be part of this community. And I think that I look forward to this summit that we have in Washington, D.C., and to be with all of you and to be in front of Congress and to say these things. We need to do everything we can for Israel right now. And, you know, we'll settle the scores later. I think there are a lot of scores to be settled, but that's where I am. So thank you, Jeremy, and thank you everyone for just being here and being this community.
Thanks so much, Ben. And you've actually set up a great transition over to Anat. And I think that in the chat, by the way, Nate has posted the resource page that Ben just referenced with a list of organizations and resources that people can turn to if you're looking for something immediate to do. And Anat Nashitz is here from the democracy headquarters in Israel, which she's part of the high-tech sector of the protest movement and part of their international desk. And of course, she's turned her focus, along with everybody at the Democracy HQ in these last 6 days, to what can be done to help on the ground and with the support of the international community. So Anat, I know that's what people want to hear now, is how can we help? What can we do to be of use to you?
Well, thank you for asking, first of all, and thanks for this opportunity to speak to everybody here. And I appreciate the fact that you are showing up, as Rabbi Leider just said. That is huge. And the amount of support and outreach that I've seen in the last 6 days has been really heartwarming, alongside a truly horrific thing we've all been through. And I've seen the pictures and I've spoken to the families because we're trying to tell their stories as well in a number of different ways. I want to just start with two things and then end with how people can help. And there's a lot you can help with. And actually, maybe I'll kind of steal my own thunder and say that already. You can help by showing up and speaking up, okay? And that will connect to my own personal learning in the last year, really, which has been a year of awakening for me in particular, and many of my friends in high tech and civil society who are now, as Ben just said, have been extraordinarily helpful. We've woken up to our responsibility as human beings and individuals towards our community. And we've woken up to how fragile that is. And the other thing we've woken up to is the fact that the fairy tales are nothing compared to reality. Imagination is really poor when you compare it to what people are able to do. And evil is real. And most of us, good, naive people, refuse to believe that and always try to believe in the good until we actually see it. And what we're seeing in the last 6 days is pure evil. And it's our job to explain to the world that that's what it is, and that it shall no longer exist, and that is not tolerated, and it cannot be equivocated or argued or turned into some political debate. It just is not. It's on a completely different level. These are monsters, and they just do not deserve any attention at all. And there's a warning signal, and I keep saying this is like 9/11, the Holocaust combined, not in terms of numbers in different ways, but yes, in terms of just the level of atrocity. And I'll probably share a post that I did this morning around never again. This is our never again moment in this century. 2 words about what we're doing. So as Ben has said, all of civil society is in this thing. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. I don't even know how many, we cannot count them, that have shown up immediately to offer their time, their money, their energy, their knowledge, their skills, whatever it is, they're there. There are, just to describe it to you a little bit, so there are centers in various places in the country. I've been going to the one in Tel Aviv, there are other ones that literally have thousands of people who show up, first of all, just to work there all day. It's called like a war room, but it isn't. It's a gigantic conference center, right? And some people show up with equipment. They bring, food and toys and medicine and diapers and stuff for people who have been displaced. There are people who are working on actually finding homes for people who need homes. There are people who are working on identifying bodies and finding people who are missing and rescuing people when they were still stuck in various places, and talking to people everywhere in the world and connecting them. And technology, the high-tech sector in particular, has been active in providing online mental services, support services, and on the other hand, cybersecurity services and database and encryption and everything. So everyone is contributing what they can. And to me, this is a lesson on how we come together and how strong we are as a people. And that is a very positive. I'm an optimist by nature. I'm an entrepreneur and investor. You can't do it otherwise. So I do think, despite all the horror, there is a silver lining in the end, which is we will emerge out of this a lot stronger. Because we are together and we are working together and we've put everything else aside. And we also know what the issues are that we need to be dealing with so that the next however many years of Israel are robust, successful, united, fair, democratic, all of those things that we want it to be. What you can do. So one, you can speak up. We're doing a number of things to make that easier for you. Anything from content that we're posting ourselves to videos we're making to make content more easily digestible, to actually enabling you to get access to the real footage, which I have to say is really hard to watch, but sometimes you kind of need that in your head. And again, I'm going back to the Holocaust, and I apologize for that because it isn't the same. But there are images I remember as a child from school about things we learned about, and there are images I see now. And I'm sorry to say that they look really similar, and you don't want them in your head, but you really, really should have them in your head, okay? And I'm sorry, I apologize for saying that, but it's true. It's part of education as human beings to understand what is possible, and therefore our responsibility to stop that. And if we haven't seen that, we cannot tell other people who deny it, and they're already denying it. We cannot tell them unequivocally, I have seen the pictures. I have spoken to the victims who survived. I've spoken to the families. I know, okay? And the more people who know, the harder it will be to do this again. And I'm saying this because for the last year, I've been saying the world's going back 100 years. It's going back 100 years in terms of the wave of anti-liberalism and the intolerance and the atrocities that we're seeing everywhere. And now we're seeing them here. And I think it's because people have become further away from firsthand experience, people who can say, I've been there, I've seen it. And now everybody in Israel is touched by this personally, because we all know people who've been there and who have suffered the loss or whatever. So I think we all need to be there, really, really be there and expose ourselves to horrible things we don't want to see so that we can tell it firsthand, so that the circle of good, it sounds like cliche, it really isn't. The circle of good, the circle of people who care and who know and have the evidence to prove, I know, that circle needs to be huge and strong. And I want all of you to be in that circle, please. And I want all of you to make that circle as large as you can make it through your own personal connection. That is what we have to do. It's not what we can do, it's what we have to do. And obviously that comes with our obligation to defend ourselves as a nation. As you know, we're fighting now on our multiple fronts probably, and we have to get the job done. And I don't know what the plans are. I'm not leading the army yet, but I'm just saying, you need to enable us to do that, okay? Because otherwise evil will not be extinguished and this will happen again. And that is not an option.
And not just want to say on behalf of J Street, thank you to you personally, but thank you to the Democracy HQ and to all of the people who have been first fighting to preserve Israel's democracy and now fighting to preserve Israel. And you do have a partner in J Street, and we believe in the values and the vision that were behind the movement in the first place. And that's why, we've come together, and I'm sad that we are together now in this way and in this moment, but I thank you for your words and for your charge to us to ensure that this story is told. So thank you for joining us. I will say just a couple of words in closing as we come to the top of the hour. I think what we've heard on this call today is impossible to process. It's something that we shouldn't have to hear as human beings, but it's the history of humanity that these things are part of our human history. The work of J Street in the weeks and months ahead is to make sure that these kinds of things do not happen again. That's what J Street is about. There's no true military response or answer that will satisfy this situation in a way that ensures it never happens again. Because ultimately, it's J Street's core belief that once the fighting is over and the tragic tolls are counted and we've all mourned those that we have lost, this conflict remains there. And the state of Israel, in order to ensure its survival and security and safety as a Jewish homeland, but also as a democracy, it will have to find some political resolution to the underlying question of how do you have two people live together in this one piece of land without doing what was just done this weekend, and what is happening as well in Gaza, because it is a vicious and horrible and violent cycle that will never end without a political resolution. The memory of those who have been lost this week is going to be honored when we take a path that ensures both that those who perpetrated this evil are held to account, but also that this does not set off a chain of catastrophic events that lead to further death and destruction in a never-ending cycle. That is the only way to honor the memory of those that we have lost. J Street is dedicated to peace. We are dedicated to diplomatic resolution of conflict. We are dedicated to the state of Israel and to the survival and the security of the state of Israel, but we are also dedicated to the humanitarian needs and the rights of the Palestinian people too. And so many of those who perished and suffered in this horrific crime shared those values as well. And I know that I carry them in my heart, and I use that as my inspiration for the tough work ahead. So I want to say on behalf of J Street again, thank you to Omar, Gal, and Noam. Thank you to Ben. Thank you to Anat. Thank you so much, Rabbi Leider, for the words of Torah and wisdom and setting a tone. And thank you to all of J Street for coming together in this moment. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and I look forward to doing it with all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.